Do you have a vision that you aspire to realize both in life and at work? And do you have a strategy for how you're going to get there? If getting some help to create both of those things interests you, then boy, I'd really stay tuned because we've got some great help coming your way. So when we use the term vision, just what in the world are we talking about anyway? A vision is a picture of what you want your life and or your work and career to look like at some point in time in the future. And the vision also includes a time frame for by when you want to achieve that result. Strategy is your plan on how you're going to get there. So to give you a quick sense of how to create both of those things, let's begin with the end in mind. That's going to give you a sense of the big picture so that you can see all the pieces. And then we'll go through and identify how you use each of those pieces to build out your vision and your strategy. Let's dig in. As you can see in the picture I've just put on the screen, vision is actually a part of strategy. Vision is the element of strategy that provides the direction. It defines the desired outcome, and it defines the timeline that you're going to be working with to achieve that desired outcome. Objectives are the major capabilities, outcomes, and milestones that you need to accomplish in order to realize the vision. Goals are the tactical ground-level ambitions that you require to achieve each of the objectives. Purpose is the reason you're doing the work that you're doing. Values are the principles and standards that govern your conduct. Now, I'm definitely oversimplifying for purposes of this video, but here are the main steps for creating a strategy. Strategy begins with a vision and then involves taking inventory of all of the outcomes and actions involved in bringing that vision to life. Next, it's organizing all those things that you just inventoried into a coherent plan. As you can see, a vision is broken down into objectives. Each of the objectives needs to be achieved in order for the vision to be realized. Each objective is then broken down into goals. And likewise, each of the goals needs to be accomplished in order for the objective to be realized. Then you have to organize those outcomes and actions in dependent order. In other words, which comes first and which comes second. A well-organized strategy can look a lot like a construction schedule. And that can be a great way to think about a strategy. A construction schedule is just an organized sequencing of outcomes and activities designed to guide day-to-day action. The idea of vision has been around a very long time. In 1922, a couple of professors at the Harvard Business School came up with the vision, mission, and values paradigm, which has been in use within organizations ever since that time. Unfortunately, the ideas of vision, mission, and values have been interpreted and reinterpreted ad nauseum for decades, and there's a ton of different ideas out there in the world about what each of these things represent. All of these different interpretations have really muddied the waters and created a tremendous amount of confusion for organizations and for individuals trying to utilize these valuable concepts of mission, vision, and values. It took me years of inquiry, learning, and just trial and error to find what actually works. So that's what I'm going to be sharing with you here today in this video. Right off the bat, let me clarify that when I use the term mission, I'm referring to what we call purpose. Next, one of the major problems that I've encountered is that visions that can't be achieved simply lose their ability to inspire and motivate. When that happens, the vision becomes largely useless. This is why I believe that it's important to keep your visions relatively short term in terms of time. So what I mean by that is 2 to 5 years. So think about it this way. You might have a long-term aspiration to own your own company and run your own business someday. Congratulations. So if that's 15 years from now, what are you going to focus on in the next 2 to 3 years? And what are you going to focus on in the 2 to 3 years after that? So you see, there's a progression here. So what are the various roles that are going to help equip you with the things that you need to learn in order to be successful at owning your own business? Focusing on each of those roles gives you a very manageable focus. It allows you to really use your time wisely to get the most out of each experience that you determine is needed to qualify you for the next role. Once you accomplish that vision of reaching that role, Then it's time to take a look back at that long-term aspiration and ask yourself, all right, am I still passionate and interested in having my own business? Or because of my growth and development in this particular area, going for this particular role, that I see my future differently? So in my approach, over the course of your career, you'll have multiple visions and you'll have multiple strategies aimed at accomplishing those visions. All of those visions and all of those strategies are going to be informed by your long-term aspirations. Both your visions and your long-term aspirations are, well, they're aspirational. That means they're forward-looking. In other words, they look into the future. Personally, I think that's what's created a lot of the confusion. I think it's totally natural for people to look at vision and aspirations and say they're both forward-looking, so what's the difference? The difference really comes down to the time horizon that you apply to your vision compared to your aspirations. What's also important is to recognize that your strategy is going to be built on your vision. So there's a level of accountability and there's a level of investment in a vision that you don't have in a long-term aspiration. If you were to consider placing your long-term aspirations into the role of what we're considering a vision, that means that now you have to develop objectives and goals in your strategy for a 10, 15, 20-year period of time. Given how dynamic the world is, how is it possible that you're going to do that? Strategy, by definition, is operational. So it's very action-oriented. If you don't focus all of that action-oriented detail of the objectives and the goals on a vision that's attainable within a reasonable period of time, you end up creating a monster. Just imagine the number of objectives and the number of goals that you're going to have to define just to have a completed strategy. And just think about maintaining that strategy. The world's a very dynamic place. Things are changing all the time. And so if you're in there constantly having to adjust your strategy because it's so... How are you going to feel about that? It's going to be rather demotivating. That's my experience, both with organizations and in coaching people in their career strategy. So you solve that problem by having a long-term aspiration that aligns with your best fit occupational direction. And then you operationalize accomplishing that long-term aspiration through establishing a series of visions that you can really strategically manage within that 2 to 5 year period of time. That builds in accomplishment. It builds in celebration. It builds in a reevaluation of that long-term aspiration at 2 to 5 year intervals, allows you to account for the dynamics of the real world, and it allows you to change your mind with all that accomplishment already being realized and celebrated. You see, mentally, it just makes a huge difference to treat strategy and vision in the way that I'm articulating for you here. It helps you maintain a sense of direction while maintaining your adaptability to the real world so that you can adapt and make changes to that long-term aspiration without feeling that you failed because you didn't happen to choose the exact long-term aspiration that you end up with, which in reality is really not a very healthy expectation, but it's a common one. So I encourage you to give the guidance you find in this video a try. You might just find it's life-changing. And if you're interested in more detailed guidance, there's a link in the description below. And there's also a discount code for purchase of additional resources that can help you in this area. Well, that's a wrap for this video. I want to thank you very much for investing your time with me today, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video.